So for more reaction, we welcome Ari Tataka, English Director of the Rebor Center and editor of the newsletter It's Noon in Israel. Thank you so much for being here in studio. So a chorus of condemnation over this rhetoric. It's not often you hear unity from all the opposition parties and the Prime Minister and the President. This is how vile this message is being received and perceived. Your thoughts?
Well, I think the first reaction is obvious. These comments are disgusting. You don't have to be someone who sits down and learns religious texts all day to know that it's not how you speak about the people protecting you, making tremendous sacrifice to ensure that you are safe, especially in the context in which your community and you are in the moment actually encouraging your community not to help him with that mission. But my second reaction is to take a step back and ask myself, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where a community whose entire strategy so far has consisted of militaristic statements, protests, laws that will be struck down almost immediately, even before the ink dries, the Supreme Court will throw that into the trash. And we have to ask, how is it still possible that we are in a stage where this is still the conversation happening? Not yes or no, but how is this going to happen? And I think for blame, we're going to have to point the finger towards the government, which has not had the courage, quite frankly, to face up to their Haredi partners and say, there's a simple reality that you know, that we all know, and that you are too afraid to tell your constituency. Haredi draft is inevitable, and it's time to start asking about how we can best facilitate that in a comfortable manner, rather than asking, will we or will we not draft?
Well, to that exact point, let's look then at Benjamin Netanyahu's reaction to this rhetoric, saying even when there are differences of opinion amongst us, there is no place for serious inflammatory statements against the IDF and its commanders who protect us all. That is the quote. But he needs these votes come October.
Well, he's certainly in a difficult position. But that's why we've seen this essential litany of different legislation that is basically most of his constituency is allergic to. Now, Netanyahu's position is interesting. Where's he going to move from here? He can either move straight to the right and basically tell his constituency and reinforce what he's been saying all along, which is a Haredi draft is coming. But meanwhile, his coalition partners are on the other side saying, we're not going to draft. We're never going to draft. So he has the option of making one a reality or the other. Quite frankly, at the moment, I believe the Haredi parties, because what we've seen so far, especially even today, is a freeze on all Haredi arrests for draft dodgers. And that is not conducive to what one might call a enthusiastic Likud come election time.
Certainly is going to be a divisive issue. So many emotions on this particular issue. We wait to see how it all unfolds. Ari, I'd like your take on another major story, Israel to recognize the Armenian genocide. If the Knesset votes in favor of the proposal, we'll know in a week's time. It didn't take until next week for Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to respond just moments ago, lambasting the move, of course, by Israel. Your take on where it goes from here?
Unfortunately, this recognition has nothing to do with Armenia and everything to do with Turkey. It's worth remembering that 20 years ago, Israel was one of the primary blocs stopping the US from recognizing the genocide. At that time, the ADL and groups like AIPAC were actually stopping recognition in Congress because at the time, Turkey was a very close Muslim ally of Israel. Now here we are 20 years later, and a week ago we have Erdogan threatening Israel's existence, calling everything we do a genocide, and constantly insinuating that he might actually take military action. Trump himself said a few days ago that he actually had to stop Erdogan from joining the Iranians during the last war, which is an absurd thing to say about a NATO member. But this has all led to a circumstance in which Gideon Sa'ar comes to the cabinet last week and says, let's recognize the Armenian genocide as a slap to the Turkish face. Now, on the one hand, it's great that they're recognizing it. It was a truly horrific time for Turkey's minorities, not just the Armenians, but especially the Armenians. And the fact that it isn't given broad recognition is a true crime of history. But on the other hand, is politicization of genocide really what we want to start with? I think as the Jewish people who have our own experiences with such horrific crimes, and especially of the past 2.5 years of having it constantly thrown in our face and politicized against us, is this really the example we want to be setting? I would think not.
Well, it certainly is going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. And of course, Turkey isn't the only nation upset about this development. We will be seeing what happens next. But for now, we appreciate your time and your insights. Ari Tatarka, thank you for being here in studio.
Thank you for having me.